it? Solomon, he's the patron saint of the way with Noah. Michael has whipped up a little ditty, the theme you just heard. Let me know on Twitter what you guys think of that. And kicked me off with a sweet new logo. So we're upgrading things here. Welcome, everybody. This is Tuesday, May 17th. Welcome to The Way with Anoa. I'm your host, Anoa Changa. Shout out to the Benjamin Dixon Show, to Ben Dixon and the rest of the Progressive Army for helping me do what I do every Tuesday night, bringing you a little bit of knowledge on the path as we move forward, showing you the way. All right. Tonight, you guys know, Tuesday, I got the lucky, end of the stick, I guess. I got the lucky draw, depending on how you see it. Another primary night. Nail biter, right? Going on in Kentucky right now as we're waiting for results to come in. I saw when I last checked that we had a 0.2% difference with 54% in it. He was up by 0.2, but we still have not had results come in really from Louisville or Lexington. And so we'll see what happens when those returns come in. When I last checked, shout out to the team, behind the scenes production team for the night for getting me some numbers early, but 54% in, and he's up by 0.2%. So he had a slight lead last time we checked. And so we're getting more Kentucky numbers in throughout the rest of the hour. Definitely will update you. Oregon, being Pacific Northwest, those results are not going to come in time for me to give you guys any information. We'll be taking questions via Twitter and via the chat room. Please come and hang out with us on YouTube and chat room. So there's not really much I could tell you about, but these with the primaries, we're waiting for results to come in. As we're moving forward, we still have so much more on the table, right? We still got Puerto Rico. We still got, still have New Mexico, Jersey, California. Get out and do what you can. If you live in any of those places, at least, I know a lot of us work. A lot of us have other responsibilities besides, being active and engaged in this movement. But whatever you can do, if you can at least deliver the voting age adults in my immediate family, that's huge. That is huge. If you can at least say, I talk to my parents or I talk to my children, if you have children who are voting age, or I talk to my brothers and sisters, or I talk to my neighbor, my best friend. At least talk to people, because those face-to-face conversations, they make all the difference in bringing people together as we're moving forward. And not only, this election process, right? This march to the nomination as we move forward, because we got a long game, right? Progressive Army, family, we got a long game we're talking about here. We are talking about changing the soul. We're talking about changing the fabric. And that's an uphill, long-term battle process that's going to require us to be constantly, actively engaged at multiple levels, not just in the voting booth, not just at the ballot box, not just at the caucus site, you know what I'm saying? But well beyond. At committee meetings, that means when the rules are being written, opportunity to challenge or to amend or to step up to take a position, that means you organize, you mobilize, you make sure that you have the people together and those parts of the process too, because it's more than just showing up to vote every 4 years. We're talking about president, Senate, or every 2 years we're talking about House of Representatives. We need to make sure that we're active and engaged when we're talking about our state and local houses too. We're talking about even our PTA. Basic your city council. County commissions. These are people who are making decisions about our day-to-day lives. There's so much going on right now, and if we have an active say and participation in the processes that lead to these decisions, maybe we have a different outcome. We're talking about situations where we have, overzealous police officers disciplining our kids in schools. There are so many issues going on. Now, I know that everybody's buzzing still. Today's Tuesday. Last night, Ben got to talk to folks about the Nevada Democratic Convention this past weekend. I know that's still been on everybody's minds. There's a lot of conversation going on. There are a lot of people focused on that and those issues. My space and why you tune into me, it's because I'm always pushing you and everybody else, including myself, to move forward. And that's not to say, that's not to dismiss, that's not to discourage. You know, we can acknowledge that there has been messed up thing after messed up thing occurring every time there's a vote at some part of this process since even before the first ballot was even cast, right? We see it, we know it, we understand it. So what do we do now though, right? You know, I'm an attorney. So by trade, okay, I identify problems, but then it's about how do we find solutions to those problems? How do we move ourselves forward? What does that look like? Because I can sit here and keep telling you about my problems, and what are you going to say to me? Okay, my man done left me. Okay, this. If you got a friend or a sister or whoever who's sitting there telling you about their problems all day long, no solutions. They're not trying to move off the block. What are you going to say to them? So I feel the process has been rigged. And I say that as a Black woman in America. I say that as someone whose step-grandfather has told me stories about how it took him well into his adulthood after he had children of his own before he could even look a white person in the face comfortably. Because growing up in South Carolina, that was basically a death ticket. You cross the street when you saw somebody walking down the street. This is somebody who's living right now, active and engaged in America that I can talk to in my life. So the process has been messed up. There's a lot of stuff wrong. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse at all. But we've had a problem. And it's great to see that there are so many people that are so passionate, so active, so engaged, and so motivated to change what has been a flawed system since creation. The Constitution is imbued with oppression and inequality. There's no getting around that. Creation and expansion of what we call this great nation, America, today is imbued with the blood and the oppression of other people. Even today, as we sit here upset about our process that occurred in Nevada, U.S. citizens in Puerto Rico who do not even have some of the same rights as you do. They don't have some of the same protections I do because they live on the island of Puerto Rico, the Commonwealth, a colonial holding. So we need to keep everything in perspective. So yes, we move forward. We take stock, we take names. Yes, we organize, we mobilize, and yes, we protest. These are all strategies. We got to use all the cards in our deck, not just a select few. Covering all the bases, not just a select few. And I appreciate everyone's attention to these issues over the last several days, because I agree what happened in Nevada, the way, certain people in positions of authority acted, that's not okay. And as I've said today, as I've said on Twitter, as I've said to other people I know, I don't really care though how anybody else acts. I'm not going to let anybody take me out of my character. I'm not going to let anybody knock me off my game. And unfortunately, some of us have allowed that to happen. We don't have to agree. We don't have to agree at all, but you will be respectful. You will respect me. As I said earlier today on Twitter, former Assemblywoman Lucy Flores, who is running for Nevada Congressional District 4, she released a statement about what she felt that she needed to speak out against in terms of behavior that she observed from some supporters. That is her right. Right. You supported her a week ago. Now all of a sudden she's a traitor and she's everything else under the sun. For me personally, observing that, I do not believe people are above critique. This is the same conversation Ben and I had with folks a few weeks ago about President Obama. I don't disagree with criticizing people. I don't disagree with critique. I think it needs to be balanced, measured, and respectful. That's how I was raised. That's called home training. Shout out to Dr. Q High, DQ High. Check her out. That's my girl. Whew, my patron saint of research. And great quotes. She said something very, very, very illuminating today. There is a difference between respect. Now, a lot of us get upset about respectability politics, right? I mean, you know, if you pulled your pants up, that wouldn't happen. If you wore a tie, that wouldn't happen. If you spoke softly and nicely and used nice words, that wouldn't happen. It's giving somebody their propers. You know what I'm saying? Like acknowledging that another human being exists and is talking to you. I get you don't disagree with people. I get you don't agree. I get you disagree. I get you're angry. Our children act in this manner, because this is what we're modeling. We're modeling the way forward. We're modeling how to get things. We're modeling how to lead. Come after us. This is not how we lead. This is not how we build a movement that's supposed to be positive and progressive. That does not mean that you have to turn the other cheek and just smile and sing kumbaya. Not at all. Get on them committees, get people out, do what you gotta do. But that don't mean that you gotta lose your sense. Skin and be other than who you are. Because I know a lot of y'all are better than some of the online behavior that happens. We have a problem with online abuse, and it's not a Bernie problem. Because I know we've had that conversation a couple of times too. It is not a Bernie only problem. Clinton supporters immediately jump on all of this and then themselves are abusive. Last week, they the most aggressive and abusive from online studies in general, even more so than Trump supporters. Call it all out, all of it. And just be done with it and move on, because this detracts away from our message. Because no, people who are staunch Hillary Clinton supporters, we're not going to convince them to feel the burn. It's not going to happen. Either they will or they won't. Moving forward, we have a long game that we are involved in. We're fighting for the soul of the country. And I get how important this is for us. But a lot of important things have happened, and we got to keep this in perspective. You know, people literally have died for the right to be able to themselves in public. People have literally died. When I think about people like, you know, Mark Clark and Fred Hampton, who were murdered by the Chicago Police Department. I mean, people have literally put their lives on the line. I'll enjoy the day. So I definitely feel the seriousness of what is going on. You can call it out. We can attack media narratives, but we also need to be focused. Because right now, I just checked. My update is that Clinton is now ahead in Kentucky. Now it flipped back again, but we are going back and forth. Yo, let's move forward. In the news today, while we're talking about things to be upset about, there was a triple bombing last night. I looked at the news earlier today. There was a triple bombing today in Baghdad. It's attributed to the Islamic State. There was the larger bombing was in a market, killed 30, I think it was 36 people. The bomber was initially said to be a woman. IS later said that it was actually a man. But there was a suicide bomber. Another bombing that took place in the vicinity was a car bombing, killed 16 people, and then I forget how many was in the other room. But there were 3 bombings in Baghdad today. People just going about their daily lives. There's a lot going on that people have to be angry about in the world at large. But we all have to do our part to figure out, and what do we do when we're faced with insurmountable odds. That's a pretty insurmountable issue. IS is now, even though they've been beaten back some, is now starting to continue to encroach upon, you know, certain safe havens. There's another piece I read earlier today, which was really interesting. Last week, there was some talk about Brazil, the Brazilian president being impeached, and the process that's going through. What the article I read earlier mentioned was the fact that she ushered in an era where she had a very diverse cabinet. It was extremely representative of the country for the first time in its short democratic history. Brazil's about a 30, 35-year-old democracy or so. She's been replaced, right, while this process is going on, by an all-white male cabinet, all white men. They've replaced everybody. There's been no attempt to be representative. What is interesting to note is how there's an attempt to try and normalize the interim that has unsaid support from the U.S. government. But the people, and internationally, particularly in South America, they're not being well received. Also, it's interesting to note that they're either just as corrupt as she's alleged to be, right? So she didn't get replaced by these like righteous good doers. She got replaced by people who were even more corrupt than she is. So what real justice is that in that process? So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds and how that in South America, particularly when you think about the conversation. If you guys haven't seen Nick Nolan's inaugural solo interview yesterday with John Perkins, the economic, what is his title? It just slipped my mind. Economic hitman. But yesterday, part of their conversation talked about, destabilizing of the democratic regimes in South and Central America, and, who favored Western interests, who were not as productive or conducive to the people. So it's going to be interesting what happens in Brazil going forward with this new leadership. The next thing that was pretty interesting today, the Supreme Court, there's a contraception case. And, we've had a lot of concern about the Supreme Court because of the 4-4. What do we do if we get a 4-4? It gets kicked back to whatever the lower court decision is. So an evenly divided Supreme Court skirted the major legal questions arising from a dispute today over the healthcare program. And they announced the compromise Monday. So instead of letting the decision end in a 4-4, there was a compromise reached designed to clear the way for working women or employees of religious organizations to receive free birth control as promised under the ACA. So, for those who may not be aware, there have been challenges going back to the Hobby Lobby case, right? There were challenges about whether or not these institutions had to provide the free contraception that's supposed to be provided pursuant to the ACA. So all of us, for the most part, who have coverage, we're entitled to free birth control. It's enumerated exactly what that consists of. So in the short decision based on this compromise that was reached, the justices, indicated that Catholic charities who filed the suit and the Obama administration, the court basically shook them and said, you better agree. They came to an agreement that female workers may receive cost-free contraceptive coverage without infringing on the religious rights of the church-based employers. So, right, that way, the judges then no longer need to address what they feel were the broader legal issues involved. And at least in this instance, this is resolved versus just being left in limbo. So we have, though, here with a court just sitting in limbo like this, there are several other cases that are coming up to be decided by the Supreme Court. And as long as we have the potential, I don't know if they'll be able to work it out, going forward like they did in this case, but we have a Puerto Rico challenge coming up in terms of whether Puerto Rico has the right to bankruptcy provisions to its municipalities. There's quite a few stuff. We still haven't heard the resolution of the U-Texas affirmative action case again. There's quite a few things that are just hanging out there. And with the potential for a 4-4 split, it's just for some of these, cases going forward. And then as just continuing along with Puerto Rico, yeah, I'm stuck on the Puerto Rico thing. I'm stuck on the Puerto Rico thing because it's messed up. It's a travesty. Hold on for a second. My battery came out. Accidentally knocked out my charger. Sorry, you guys. But Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico thing, it messes with me. Why does it mess with me? I had somebody, like when I talked about the Puerto Rican debt crisis, 2 weeks ago, someone commented on the video, well, why would you care about them? That ain't got nothing to do with you. Those are people. Those are people, and they Americans. They citizens. Puerto Rico's, they're citizens of the United States of America, and they're being treated like substandard whomevers, right? So we have all these conversations about social justice and human rights and XYZ. If I'm saying that those things are things that I value, if I'm saying institutional racism is something that I have to attack, address, and is a moral imperative, we're talking about a reporter, then Puerto Rico and what is happening has to be at the forefront of what we're talking about. It just has to be. This is what we got to think about here, right? The process is messed up. Yes, these electoral procedural issues that are happening are messed up. But guess what? At least we get to vote for president. We may not want to, but we still have the right to. If you live on the island, not on the mainland, but if you live on the island, to vote, you don't even get a say. How that doesn't even make any sense. You a citizen, right? But you don't even get a say. So they get a say coming up in the primary. The primary is coming up, I think it's June. I could be off my date, but it's coming up. It's coming up. So that is an opportunity. We need to do it, Bernie Nation, you know what I'm saying? We get real upset, fired up. We can spend 3, 4, 5 days talking about something that already happened, but how much time can we all commit to what's coming up? Just saw an interview the other day about Senator Sanders' visit to Puerto Rico. So Senator Sanders went to Puerto Rico. Bill Clinton is in Puerto Rico right now. But Senator Sanders is in Puerto Rico, and he visited with the field office. And one of the things that was said to him was, you know, we are doing our best to work, to reach people, to really inform them about you. They have no resources. Now, of course, that's up to the campaign to make sure that campaign office has resources, but have you even reached out to see, like, I've gotten messages on African Americans for Bernie about, do we know what grassroots efforts are going on in Puerto Rico? I do not, but we need to find out. We need to find out, and we need to find out how we can support whatever anyone is doing. If this revolution means as much as we're saying, that we need to make sure that we are capturing everybody we can capture. Said, this may only be a dream of mine, but I think it can be made real. The truth, all the way. So, you know, Bernie was in Puerto Rico. Yay, us, so great, whoop, whoop. But state, it is so close. Kentucky is crazy, you guys. It is 46.8 Clinton. This is last numbers 2 minutes ago. 46.8 Clinton. 46.3 Bernie with 76% in. This is like, just think what a little bit more phone banking or canvassing might have done over the weekend. Like, seriously, we have to really stay focused. We need to divide up. We need an arm that's going to be the legal protection. And you don't even got to be a lawyer. Just make sure you know the rules right there, day of, on the spot, to help people. Grassroots, we need to organize that. We need to make sure we got that active and engaged. Like, seriously, this is our movement, regardless of what happens with Bernie Sanders, regardless of whether he's a nominee. And you know, I am all in. Just because I may say we need to be balanced, not a sign that I'm giving up. Nah, this is the long haul. This is the long game we playing. Outrage leads only to high blood pressure. Like, seriously, we have to figure out a way to stay motivated and keep up our momentum, building our numbers, our resources. Like, come on, y'all. So we talking about Puerto Rico, and we need to continue talking about Puerto Rico. Shout out to folks who reached out on Twitter yesterday about Puerto Rico too, because again, Bernie Sanders, there was like 2,000 people showed up for an event. Like, there's so much going on. They're talking about how students are saying like they just need to default on their loans because some of the cuts in the measure that's sitting in Congress right now, some of the provisions include cutting the minimum wage for those under 25 from $7.25 to $4.25. That age group that already has high unemployment rate, that is already struggling. How much does Bernie talks all the time about the young people and how many young people having jobs and stuff? Like, you're gonna cut minimum wage and put them at $4.25? That's what I made in high school 20 years ago. It's ridiculous. The austerity measures being put in place, it's not okay. And you know what we can do? Because I'm all for like putting people in their place. But guess what? We still got the people who are in there now, and they're still the ones making the decisions right now. And they are accountable to us because we live in their districts. So we need to organize and mobilize. I feel y'all on the petitions to whitehouse.org, and Obama needs to address this or whatever. If he ain't doing it, then we need to put fire under everybody. Don't just write to him. Write to your Congress folks. Write to your senators. Write to your House representatives. Are there local organizations like around that are even active and engaged in any of this work? Major organizations are that have been mobilized and organized around this issue. How can we lift them up and support that? 84%, and Clinton just jumped up to 47.3%. Bernie is at 46.2%. So that's, like I said, results almost all in, it's like super close. Which honestly, I mean, Kentucky was another state that should have went for it. I'm really hoping, like, come on, Oregon, really hoping for a big win later on in the night. We'll just have to update y'all via Twitter. But like, what's going on right now, and what's going on right now in Puerto Rico is very timely as well, because today is the 62nd anniversary of education. 62 years ago today, the federal government, the Supreme Court determined that separate but equal, basically, right, for lack of a better word, case litigated by former Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. Or yesterday, a Mississippi school district, Cleveland, Mississippi, was just ordered to desegregate. This is a 50-year battle. 62 years ago, Brown versus Board of Education. I'm saying we playing a long game, because the desegregation battle is still being fought all across the country. There may not be an actual case law on it, but it's happening everywhere. Versus Board of Education. We're 62 years from separate is unequal. Ponder that for a moment. 57 years, I believe it is, from Martin Luther King's speech, give me the ballot, give us the ballot. Long game. We still talking about voting rights issues in 2016. This is the first presidential election that will not have the full protection of the VRA. It was enacted 51 years ago. This summer, first election that we will not have the full protection of VRA. And as we're seeing from our experiences in this primary season, there are so many other issues, these huge issues that have existed. So in addition to the problems we saw in Alabama, in addition with them closing down the DMVs, issues we saw in North Carolina with the ID requirements and students not having the right information for being able to vote. In addition to what we've seen in Wisconsin, right? That was a big issue in Wisconsin. This was the first election where that Wisconsin law was in place, and they didn't do any of the voter outreach education that the state was required to do. Problems going on. This is not new. Game. And this requires us to be active, engaged, informed consistently. And not just us, because it's great that we all aware and we woke and we know what's up. But if our attitude is, well, you should know this, and if you don't, that is on you, that is unacceptable. Unacceptable. that because you still lost, because you don't know this, or you don't understand why this is important, or you don't get why you should support Bernie, that's too bad on you. So we shouldn't be, why should we worry about voter engagement and outreach? Because if we're talking about building a movement, if we're talking about winning this battle and ultimately the war, people with us as we can get. Now, that don't mean that who is here now is not valuable, because you all know you are valuable, you are needed and forward. But at the same time, we can't lose out on the importance of organizing, educating, engaging our peers and our parents. You know, I was talking to somebody recently, and we were talking like, you know, I can say, if nothing else, at least I delivered for the campaign, family member in my family. And I'll even go forward, my people I consider my brothers and sisters, even though we're not related, my extended family. I was able to at least do that. Whether people actually believe in voting, my enthusiasm, my persistence, talking to people about what they value, what they believed in, it spoke to them in a way that they had never thought about politics before. Who don't believe in the system, don't believe, not at all, in Harlem, I'm gonna vote today because of you. That is a start. And now she's motivated and engaged to be more involved in her local stuff too. That means something. The person I was talking to is a friend from undergrad. We were talking and she was like, oh, you know, I tried, but my parents were this, and I just didn't even try again. So how you gonna be mad about people not supporting, and you couldn't even get care about you and that you actually have a rapport with? We got to get out there and talk to people face to face, because this is how we build a movement. This is how we move forward. So when we're talking about, and it's not just these issues that are happening now. Like I said, I get y'all are mad about Nevada, but there's a whole bunch of stuff to be mad about. Black and Latino students lose out to white peers, and it's getting worse. That's a headline out of Huffington Post Black Voices today. 6 decades after Brown versus Board of Education, a U.S. agency finds we still have a 2-tiered education system. I could have told you that. I did a project when I worked for BPI, Business and Professional People for the Public Interest in Chicago. That is a public interest policy center law firm. They were the original in Gautreaux v. CHA, Gautreaux v. Hood. Alexander Polikoff was my senior staff counsel. He litigated those cases before the Supreme Court in 1968. During that time, we were looking at, you know, issues because we sat on over the receivership of Chicago Housing Authority's, you know, public housing. And one of the things we looked at were creating all this mixed income development housing. That's a whole nother story I'll talk about another time. We were looking at neighborhood schools and what makes a good school. And I was digging in deep in all this research and stuff. And we found in Chicago that even when you controlled for, so when you look at the similar situated like white and black levels, the schools were so different. They were so different. The opportunity was so different, vastly different. This is 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? As a kid, I could have told you that 15 years ago. The fancy, you know, magnet school I got bused to was way different. Younger brothers went to. Big difference. So we are 62 years out from Brown versus Board of Education, and we still have issues. And we're seeing these issues in places that weren't traditionally covered by Brown versus Board of Education, or what people had in mind. Because when you talk about Brown versus Board of Education, they were, you know, they're thinking of like, you know, the South, because the South is bad. New York City has some of the most, I think it's the most segregated school system in the country. New York is a rather diverse place, but there's a lot of education and housing segregation that exists. Now, we all say segregation is bad. You know, we understand, we can use the language of intersectionality. We can talk out loud about segregation. We can use this language. We understand how to use it. We academically get what it all means. But can we, as a movement, can we, as a group, can we put it into practice to actually dismantling these institutions and the existing inequities that continue to persist in the system? Work that we need to be doing. That's some of the stuff that should be enraging us. Technically, the law no longer condones segregated schooling, but we still have a system that creates two tiers. There were so many efforts in the 60s and 70s, and some places even the 80s. I have a friend from grad school. He was telling me a story about how they were busing them in Columbus in like 79, 80. There's 25 years after Brown versus Board of Education. You know, if anyone's seen the movie Remember the Titans, right? Remember the Titans? That was the early 70s, and they were just then segregating schools in Virginia. There's a lot of work to be done, and across several different issues. We are up against centuries. I was going to say decades. We're up against centuries of institutionalized oppression across many different areas. Whether we're talking about race, gender, whether we talk about access to economic, mobility, voting rights, the way these parties have set up. And I know some of us are like, well, bump it, I'm leaving the party. You have a plan. Because you can leave the party and say, I'm not going to be involved with the party, but then what's the plan? What are we doing? Where are we going? Come on, let's be smart about this. Let's be smart about where we're going and what we're doing. What is the model? What is the plan? And how are we going to get there? I am not giving up on you. I may not always agree with you. I may not even like the way you present information to me, but I'm not giving up on you because I'm here. And I hope you don't give up on me if I say something you don't necessarily like. I promise you, I will respect you at the end of the day because we're on the same side. But at the same time, just because we allies don't mean anything you do or say gets excused. We need to be held accountable and responsible. And I wouldn't be a good sister to you if I didn't say, yo, this is not cool. You wouldn't be a good brother or sister to me if you ain't say, yo, Anoa. But do so respectfully, because that's all I ask. And I know you would want the same for me. What can we do? Okay, schools are being schools have basically resegregated themselves. Well, and basically, post-racial America, it doesn't exist anymore. Whatever little progress did exist for that short period after the 60s, now we're refighting many of the same battles that were previously litigated. But now we're so far removed, people want to act like, oh, well, that was back then in those days. Now, we are still knee-deep in the legacy of racialized oppression and degradation in this country, of economic degradation, of religious oppression. I mean, so many different levels, right? But we got to figure out how to work together, how to parse it out, and how to move it along. So yeah, 62 years. 62 years post. That's crazy. That's crazy. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. And Q gave me this real beautiful write-up and I didn't even get to any of it. So I'm gonna have to just start doing separate videos. It's a separate segment for all the juicy tidbits that I get from Q, because there's a lot of good stuff out here. So much stuff. But the desegregation case, Ella Baker, because I'm feeling Ella Baker, right? The spirit of Ella Baker is with me tonight. I might even have to write Ella Baker in November. But Ella Baker taught me, this is a quote from her, "You didn't see me on television. Stories about me. The kind of role that I tried to play was to pick up pieces or put together pieces out of which I hoped organization might come." Pause on that for a minute. I'm not on the TV. You didn't see me in the news, but my role has been to pieces or put them together out of which I hoped organization might come. She continued on to say, my theory is strong people don't need strong leaders. And that's not to say that strong leaders are valuable or important, but when we have a strong group of people, when we organize, mobilize, energize, smarter, when we are methodical, when we leverage our voice, leverage our access, leverage our vote, leverage showing up, when we show up, something. You know, we got a system and it sucks. And I know there's a lot of people who are in favor of will work within the system and change it. Let's figure out what that's going to look like. What are we doing? Where are we going? How are we getting there? Let's figure that out, y'all. Let's have them conversations. We have to be earlier. We got to be twice as good. Progressives, they've been coming for us for a long time. This was not going to be easy. This was never going to be easy. I know y'all up for the task though. This is that, halftime, we down and out, but we not all the way out because we live and we got an advantage that they don't got. We got heart. And we ain't even put in our strongest team yet. Because I know y'all just I know we've been organizing, we've been figuring this out as we go along, and we keep improving. Y'all out there, and I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you who take the time to even actively engage with us. Just because I may push back, it don't mean I don't appreciate you. I'm trying to further the discussion because we got to move forward. We got to work through this. Dream of mine, but I think it can be made real. Truth. You don't know about Ella Baker? Look her up. Brilliant civil rights activist. Mother of SNCC, SCLC, core member of NAACP. I mean, like, truly civil rights greatness. Leaders that make movements matter, not just one figurehead that is recognized, right? We're all leaders. We all have the potential to do this. To move forward, productive action. We need to develop what are those processes that are going to get us to the promised land, so to speak, right? What are we going to do to help break down these barriers we're talking about in our schools? Jobs, like there's so much on the table. Environmental concerns. I saw some brilliant tweets from I can't remember the sister's name about environmental issues happening in Missouri. What's going on? People are woke. Please pay attention to what's going on, because yes, this presidential stuff, it has our attention, but we need to make sure this passion and energy we also working on all these local issues. Missouri, speaking of Missouri, there's also a stand your ground bill that's pending right now that wants to, you know what I'm saying? Come on, we got to pay attention to what's going on. Write your Congress people, email them, call them. Because when that happens, honestly, when people start hearing from you, it don't even matter the Republican ones. I got a Republican, I think he was a Republican senator, in the state senator when I was in West Virginia during the water crisis. And one of them I went to law school with, so I knew him. We weren't friends in school. We actually got into it all the time because we got into it all the time in class. Me and two friends of his all the time. But when I wrote to him, he wasn't even my senator, but he was voting on something in the state that mattered. I wrote to him. He was like, it's good to hear from you. Glad you're doing well. What you're saying, because this affects us. Because some of these people, they might be in that party over there or whatever, but they are actually people. It affect them too. Some of these folks, we just need to get rid of them. And that's what we're working on. Brand new Congress, 100 city tour starting tomorrow. We working on that. Work on that too. We got layers. It's It's issues all over the place that we got to work on and get to. We got to be methodical. We can't get so trapped, as JP always tells me, in the weeds. Yes, it's there. Yes, it's a problem. Yes, we got to address it. Yes, yes, and yes. But we can't keep that from moving forward and doing the work that has to be done. And I stay mad. But I still got to come home and take care of my kids. I still got to come home and be nice to my mate. You know, life still happens even though I'm mad, even though there's injustice, because there's injustice happening everywhere, all day. America. There's not a corner in this country where injustice is not happening. You don't think people are mad? People stay mad. But we still got to live, breathe, and continue on for another day. Frustration into action. Word. That doesn't mean you forget. That doesn't mean you give up. But that means we got a plan. They getting scared. Okay? They getting scared. You got reporters calling folks. I don't know if y'all know how scared you got these people. You got reporters calling people, talking to them. So, are Sanders supporters going to protest the DNC? That's what why would we tell you what our plans are? We don't trust you. They scared. They scared of us. We got something special, y'all. Seriously. Seriously. And we have to continue nurturing and developing it and moving it forward. We need to work on increasing opportunities within not just within our ranks, whatever parties we talking about. Like I know a lot of folks talk about, oh, we just need to go join the Green Party. Look, I'm not handing over my vote, my agency, my power to anybody. I don't care how down for the crown they are. Because we need to be very clear with what we're talking about. Whether we're talking about increasing opportunities for women and people of color, for anyone, you know, people who are economically disadvantaged, who weren't engaged and able to run for office, we need to be really looking at how we build support for the grassroots organizing that we've been doing to leverage this for greater access to change. Because that's what I always envisioned this movement being. When I very first started it out, when I heard Bernie speak, and Bernie speaks, because y'all also need to kind of check your compass some, right? Because if we're talking about our movement is grounded in what Bernie's talking about, and granted, not that he's the end all be all and he's the holy grail, but he talks about the lack of engagement of American voters, right? How do people become engaged in the process? We talk to them. We engage them in conversation about issues that matter in their communities, in their world, and tie it all together. Do. And that's why I come to you after my long day at work, my long commute home, and talk for an hour. I myself talk. No, I really enjoy your company. So there are a couple things coming up. Got anything else going on in the okay, we got 91% going in. It's 91% in the vote in and 46.8% to 46.5. Nail biter. So as we look forward, we really have to take stock. We really have to be able to have conversations, and we cannot be so easily, if I'm expressing to you something, because I'm just keeping 100% with you. Can I do that, Progressive Army? Can I keep it 100% all the way funky, as my girl Courtney says? I'm loud. I'm proud. I do not fall back for anyone. You can, if my partner would ever indulge me, you could ask him. He finds all this very amusing that you all actually come and listen to me. Not because I don't have anything valuable to say, but I've been running my mouth to everybody for years. But you know, we Progressive Army. Us as progressives, we are not. Progressive is just a label. Labels: conservative, progressive, liberal, moderate, neoliberal. They're just labels. There are some values and beliefs, and I know we say we believe in certain things on paper, and I know that we're saying, you know, Bernie talks about Black Lives Matter or institutional racism or criminal justice or whatever the case may be, and everyone's like, yes, I believe in this. It's your actual like day-to-day life. mean I'm the absolute authority because I'm a Black woman. Give me an automatic pass. Never in a million years would I ever say that. But I'm speaking to you from an experience and set that you do not actually have in your own life. So we have an issue. And I remember last summer when the Netroot stuff happened, when the disruption in Seattle, again, right there, right? We really mad about not being treated justly and stuff. But we had people who disrupted process last summer who were called everything under the sun and just absolutely seriously, right? Like progressives lost their damn minds. This was interrupted, even though they felt they were just in what they were doing and it was necessary to their cause. Again, I don't agree nor disagree with any of it. What is interesting is the way that y'all might get offended. That's fine, but I'm being honest with you. The way predominantly white progressives engage in these spaces and in these issues, particularly when they involve causes of racial oppression and degradation. We're not going to do things just because your sensibilities might be offended. We're going to have a real conversation. We're going to have real dialogue. There's an essay from Steve Biko. I cannot remember the Stephen Bantu Biko. Steve Biko. Look him up. South African freedom fighter. Last night, Ben talked about Nelson Mandela. My remark during that conversation was, at least Nelson Mandela survived his encounter with South African police. Years later, Steve Biko and many others were not so lucky. Was a major voice in the Black consciousness movement in South Africa. Black consciousness, Black power, Black Lives Matter doesn't have to threaten you. It does not have to mean that somehow you are not also valuable. It's acknowledging that we ourselves have work that needs to be done, but there are issues that are important and intrinsic that need to be addressed. And if I feel as a Black woman experiencing something, that something is not right in a situation, and I express it to you, your inclination is that your sensibilities are hurt, we need to work through that. I said, I'm gonna have to tweet out this Steve Biko essay because I do not have it right in front of me. But it just talks about the tension in dealing with issues of racial injustice and working with white liberals and progressives. You know what? Again, it's all labels. Save me the semantics. Like seriously, Dr. King talked about the difference working with white moderates in the South. You know, the underlying message is just still the same. So I'm out. That's my piece for tonight. Next week, we have another go round. We'll see what happens. We'll see what's going on as we move forward. Definitely always appreciate you guys tuning in. We got a lot of events coming up. We got the brand new Congress 100 City Tour kicking off tomorrow. We got the People's Summit in Chicago. You got the People's in June 17th to 19th. You got the People's Revolution kicking off in Philadelphia right before the convention. Something for some of y'all to check out, definitely. Primaries are coming up. I mean, make sure that you are paying attention to who's running your state and local primaries, who's running for, you know, Congress and stuff like that in your local areas. Vote, because that's one. Also, the Green Party convention for all those who are interested in the Green Party. Green Party convention is in August in Houston. Really, you know, just want to drop some songs on y'all. You know, steady bobbing and right time to be hostile. I'm out. Good night, you guys. Oh, see, I dropped my mic too soon. Please make sure, and don't hold it against Ben. If you don't like me, that's fine. But subscribe to the channel, because Ben is the truth, and he's leading the way. So subscribe, become a Patreon, and support the Benjamin Dixon Show, the Progressive Army. And because Ben's coming at 9 o'clock, and he has a killer lineup. Thank you.